Anyway, let's jump into our final review of the episode. I'm going to be taking the summary on this one, so please excuse my clumsy delivery. The movie is Netflix's Beckett. So Beckett is the story of a young American man on the run in a foreign land. At first, I thought Beckett might be a little Hitchcock. I think I might have overread it, but I'm excited to talk about what it is. Here's the line. Following a tragic car accident in Greece, Beckett, an American tourist, finds himself at the center of a dangerous political conspiracy and on the run for his life. The movie stars John David Washington as the lead Beckett. You've most recently seen him in Tenet, or for listeners of our podcast, Malcolm and Marie on Netflix, which he was also in as the lead. It also stars Boyd Holbrook, Alicia Vikander, and Vicky Krieps, who most recently was in Old. I did not expect to see her again, and she's in this film, which is really charming. It's glad to see she's doing well. The movie's directed by Ferdinando Sito Filomarino. I know I butchered that, but he's a young, up-and-coming Greek director and writer who I think most famously was the second unit director on Call Me By Your Name, the Luca Guadagnino film that got a lot of buzz. So he's definitely got some experience. And this is Netflix's first original feature from Greece that they've contracted. So big win for Greek film. This is a smaller movie. It's a small budget. It's very simple. For most of the film, Beckett is on the run. Early in the film, something happens. There's a car accident that Beckett and his girlfriend are in. The girlfriend essentially goes missing, and Beckett has to try to find out what's happened to her and find out what's going on with him. When suddenly, right in the middle of that stress, a police officer shoots at him, and then they keep shooting at him, and then another police officer shoots at him. Before he knows it, he's on the run through the Greek countryside with no phone and no plan, and certainly no idea what the hell's going on. And he has to try to unwrap this political conspiracy while also trying to get to the American embassy and hopefully make it home, and get out of there. The movie's 1 hour and 50 minutes long, in my opinion, but I'm curious to see what Andy thinks. Andy, what did you think of Netflix's Beckett?
So there's a lot going on here that I think works pretty well, and then there's some things that don't. We were talking about films that take forever to get to their premise, and this is one of them. This takes like a half hour to get going, and then once you're there, I think it's great. But the beginning is slow. There's this romantic subplot involving Alicia Vikander at the very beginning. You could cut her completely out of this movie, not going to make a difference. This falls squarely in the genre of person sees something they shouldn't and is on the run. That's basically the whole movie. We get a really good performance from John David Washington because he's like the anti Jason Bourne, where he's like not a badass, and he's like, he's not a ninja and can beat people up. He's just an average guy, and people are shooting at him, and he's trying to get away, and he's not beating everyone up. He's like, he gets pretty injured throughout the film. So there's this paranoia. He's on the run. He's clearly seen something he shouldn't, which is part of a larger kind of political plot that unwraps through the film. So some of that is exciting. It's just not exciting enough. And also, there's a lot of this cast is completely wasted because they're just frankly not in the film very long. Like I said, Alicia Vikander, she's out in the first 15 minutes. Vicky Krieps, she's in the movie maybe 8 minutes. Boyd Holbrook, same thing. So like you got a really good cast, but you're not really using them. And when they show up on screen, you immediately get suspicious because you're like, everyone else is a nobody, and then all of a sudden you got a big star playing a really minor role. So kind of give things away, but really the standout here is John David Washington's performance as an injured man on the run, trying to kind of hide from the police. He's got to get from the Greek countryside to Athens to the U.S. Embassy, and there's a lot in his way to kind of do that.
Yeah, I think fundamentally this is a character drama. Really, the only thing that works for it is kind of our actors. And like Andy said, three of the big ones are barely in the feature. Fundamentally, who you're watching here is John David Washington, who's an interesting watch. I mean, Christopher Nolan choosing Washington to play the lead in Tenet was a unique choice because he didn't really have a reputation. He had been on HBO's Ballers, and he'd been a couple other features. He'd done Black Klansman with Spike Lee. But other than that, nobody really knows who he is. So having Washington as this young, unknown lead playing this mysterious protagonist in a Christopher Nolan feature is a really good fit. And here it kind of fits too. John David Washington is this, unique individual who's out doing his thing. You don't really know what he's about. You don't really know his background. And in the same way he kind of fits in Tenet, he kind of fits in this movie. The difference is in Tenet, he is a furious individual. I mean, those fight scenes in Tenet, he is throwing people across the room. He is so like angry and filled
Yeah,
with rage, dude.
He's Jason Bourne.
Yes, yeah, like he's so quick and brutal. Like it's Jason Bourne or like modern James Bond, like very very efficient action star. This movie, he doesn't have any of those skills. You've completely taken him away from him. He is a know nothing, have no weapon, run away from everything protagonist, and that doesn't make him very exciting. Like it makes it fun to watch him run away from the bad guys for the first 20 minutes, but after like an hour into the feature of like slowly evading capture, it's not very exciting. And it's not, you'd think it would be something like Mad Max's Fury Road, and it really isn't. It's much slower. Like I said, originally I attribute it to be Hitchcockian. I really thought it was like a Hitchcock feature, something like North by Northwest, right? Stranger in a strange land, running from the bad guys that he doesn't understand. But that's overreading it. It's just a little simpler than that, and that's a shame. So we should talk about that pacing in a minute. But as far as performances go, Andy, anything memorable worth saying?
Well, like I said, he plays an injured man on the run, really convincingly. He gets shot at, he gets beat up, like he starts the film with a broken arm, so that's a lot going on. Like I said, the rest of the cast is kind of wasted because they're just in the movie for such a short time.
Yeah, I don't know how Mr. Marino managed to get this cast. I mean, I'm assuming he's done it on the back of his reputation. But that's really the only thing that's outstanding here. If these were four names that we didn't know, if these were just four nobodies, John David Washington, Boyd Holbrook, Vicky Krieps, and Lisa Vikander, if they were just four people, like, student films or anything, nobody would be watching this movie. Like, really, the only reason you stop and look at this on Netflix is because of John David Washington's face. And that's really the only feature that's worth talking about. So I should talk about the pacing a little bit. I can't just say, hey, there's nothing else good happening in here. That doesn't make any sense. Let's talk about it. It takes a little while for this movie to get started. I'm glad Andy agreed with me, at least in our initial watch. But once it gets going, the kind of cat and mouse game is at least mildly captivating to start, right? Our first act is the setup. He's in Greece. He's with his girlfriend. They're crazy about each other. Something goes wrong. He's in the hospital. He comes to. The world does not make sense anymore. Suddenly he has to run from the cops. He's got to run to the American embassy. He doesn't have a phone. Obviously, his girlfriend is nowhere to be found. The situation is not great. And at least initially in that chase, you get some decent stuff. It's outdoors, right? You're running through the Greek countryside. A lot of exterior shots, simple lighting, solid. But then you find out pretty quickly, most of the rest of the film is that way. Nearly all of it is outdoors. Nearly all of it is natural lighting. And I think it's just that way because that's just how they were making the movie. Like, it's simple and it's low budget, and that's what they're going to do. And it's a little distracting from a presentation standpoint.
Well, also there's this, subplot involving the kidnapped child of a politician, and there's this whole like political thing in the background, and it just isn't really convincing enough. Like Beckett is essentially a tourist who like stumbles upon this and gets involved, and it really doesn't make a lot of sense that way. Like he should have been a journalist or somehow more involved in it, because like you don't really ever care about like this whole like political intrigue, which is supposed to also be a part of what we see.
Yeah, it lacks like the unique trappings of like a more traditional slasher feature, right? You got a woman running away from Michael Myers. It's because he's evil and she needs to get away from him. But here we don't really understand what it is he's running from, and then when you finally find out, it's really overly wrought and too complex. And not well explained either. It's kind of just explained through dialogue. It's a whole lot of tell and not show. And it's people talking about, oh, there's this boy that went missing, and the Greek government is looking to get him so they can get. And it's like really confusing. And it's like, what the hell does this have to do with our lead? Not to mention, and this is something that probably isn't worth mentioning, but I feel like I should say it. Beckett is the only black man in Greece. Like there are no other black people anywhere in this movie, like ever, as far as I could tell. I did not see any. And you'd think at least once one person would point that out in the feature. Like you'd see a black guy running down the street in Greece with his arm bleeding and a cast, and he's limping and he's running from somebody screaming, "Help, help, the cops are." You think at least somebody somewhere would point that out in the world of the film, but like it is never even close to addressed. And it's weird. It feels out of place. It feels unnatural. It feels forced. It feels like we're watching a play and not reality, you know? And that's a bummer, because I think the thing this movie does really well is lean into its realistic trappings, what with using landscapes and settings and actual Greek landmarks to tell its story.
Yeah, it's also strange that it kind of the person kind of most involved in this political plot is a tourist and not, it would make more sense if he was like an expat or something of that, more like someone who more invested in Greece and the political goings on there. And so it's kind of weird that it's a random American here to save the day,
Right.
from you poor Greeks.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say you're absolutely right. It's confusing how he is drawn to be the victim in this feature, and then you find out he's only the victim because he's being victimized at the hands of somebody else's like tragedy. There's this whole other deep state thing going on. So not only is he wrongfully victimized, but there's really no reason for us to be following him in the first place. Like it's just kind of an odd thing to follow a protagonist for.
Yeah, it's the wrong person in this narrative to be following for this political espionage thing that's way bigger than his situation.
I don't have really a whole lot to say about the cinematography, the lighting, the color. I mean, everything felt pretty standard as far as filmmaking goes, so there's not really anything wonderful to talk about there. Ultimately, I guess I'm curious, Andy, why do you think this movie is at number 2 on Netflix right now? Is it because it's getting a lot of buzz, or just because it's got John David Washington on it?
It's got what we were talking about at the story about Gunpowder Milkshake. It's got a big name and it's got some action in it. And it's smaller level action. It's again, this is, and I keep referencing Jason Bourne, but that's what it is. It's more simple. It's one guy fighting another guy, not like this army fighting that army. So it's smaller in scale, but it's got a lot of action. It's got big names. Like I said, in addition, we have Alicia Vikander, Vicky Krieps, Boyd Holbrook is a supporting cast member. So I think that's why, and it's new.
It is. That's true. One thing I just realized, I'm looking at the director, Fernando Cito Filomarino's IMDb. He's also second unit director on Suspiria. It's very exciting. Luca Guadagnino, man, he picks his people and he sticks with them. Yeah, it makes sense. Call me by your name, Suspiria. Anyway, ultimately, this movie's a little lacking. I don't think it's malicious. I think it's just a young director who's finding their footing. This is somebody who's not new in the industry, but certainly has worked with names and visionaries who have, had bigger budgets and bigger ideas, and he's working his way up. I'd like to see what he does next. I hope it's a little bit more cinematic, because in its best moments, this feels like a Hitchcock film, and its worst moments, it feels like a home movie.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, Netflix just excels at this mediocrity of film. And again, you have a good star. You've obviously spent money to go to Greece and film on location. But the script is mediocre. Again, the writing is always the problem in these movies. And it seems like Netflix just doesn't care until it's November and it's Oscar season. Then we'll get a couple of good movies. But before then, it's just like the TV movie of the week.
Yeah, that just seems to be the way they go. That's a bummer. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but I don't know. I guess I'm glad, I should say I'm glad that Netflix is offering opportunities to filmmakers from different parts of the world. That is good. All right. And I don't expect, films from films coming out of Greece to have the same production quality as those made in sunny California in the good old US of A. But with the cast here, it just feels a little misleading. Like it just feels like there's going to be more going on than there is. And I think a tweak in presentation marketing materials might help fix that, might help smooth it out a little bit. Present this as more of an indie feature, present it as a smaller budget feature, as a real stab at something bigger. And I think it's good. Present it as, John David Washington's on the cover and it looks a little like Tenet, you're going to be disappointed. It's just not going to be it. So Andy, any other more thoughts for recommendations?
No, I think I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Beckett?
No. I'm gonna go with
all right.
Soft pass.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's fine. It's just kind of mediocre. Like I said, it's too long. Takes a half hour to get going. There are some good action scenes here. The John David Washington's performance is really solid, I think. The plot's just not super interesting. The payoff isn't very interesting. The plot's almost too big for the character. This whole like political espionage is a little too much for just a tourist, essentially, who could probably care less and would rather just leave the country and not have to deal with any of it. So,
Yeah.
but if it interests you, that's not bad. But overall, I would just say pass.
Yeah, I think if Washington goes on to have a reputation as sterling as his father, Denzel Washington, this may be a feature people look back on as like, oh man, this is a really unique character drama, and like this is where he was working into something bigger. And if you're interested in watching films like exclusively because they star John David Washington, like go off. Like it's a decent time following him around. He's playing a different kind of character, but still kind of this lovelorn protagonist. But ultimately, there's just not enough here going on to really. It's not a showstopper. It's not enough for me to say, man, drop what you're doing. You got to go watch Beckett. It's awesome. So, bit of a pass for me. Sorry to say it. It's okay, you know. And I'd be happy to have a conversation with anybody about it. But I don't know. I haven't seen the magic in Beckett. I'm not sure there's enough there to really talk about.